Here we come, blue and white, and we're looking good. You'll be in for a fight, and we fight pretty good. Getting goals is our job, and we get goals good. Looking good, we are Carlisle United.
Hello everyone, and welcome to the Brunton Bugle, the number one place to get your Carlisle United fix in the podcast world. I'm Lee Rooney.
And I'm Dan McLennan.
1 point gained or 2 points dropped. We review last weekend's game where United salvaged a draw in the final minutes against fellow strugglers Colchester, while we look ahead to the return of everyone's favourite pantomime villain this weekend as Swindon Town come to Brunton Park. Yeah, we're going to be hearing about Mr. McKirdy quite a bit in today's episode, I think it's fair to say, Dan. It's
no surprise.
Interesting to see what reception he gets. I'm going to guess it's not a very good one, to be honest.
It's not going to be a good one, is it? He's made no secret of his displeasure of his time here.
Well, it's a weird one, isn't it? Well, we'll get into more detail later, but I mean, I think he probably wouldn't have been as bad until some of the comments he made fairly recently, and I just don't get it. I'd love to know what goes on in that boy's head. I really would. Well, let's get straight into it, Dan, because we've got quite a bit to cover today. And first up, I think we need to start with this again. There's still no news. David, where are you? The silence
we're going to get
deafening.
we're going to get some posters printed and put them up around Brunton Park. Have you seen this man?
Yeah, there's a flag going up soon. I think that's fair to say.
Yeah, if you look on social media, a fan has a flag, shall we say?
Yeah,
it's interesting.
There's plenty of salt and pepper at Brunton Park for you, David, to get on your chips.
What? Just stop the music a second.
Yes.
Stop the music.
Yeah.
Salt and pepper.
I know.
Salt and vinegar.
I know. It's just absolute nonsense, isn't it? That alongside the fact that he claimed he'd never been relegated when he's been relegated twice as a player with Watford is...
Yeah,
something else.
Anyways, David, where are you?
Yeah, it's week, God knows what. I mean, what was it? Mid-October, the last time he actually spoke to the media. As the director of football there. Although, interestingly, as we'll hear later, because we actually did a bit of an opposition podcast this week, at Swindon Town, their director of football has not spoken since he was appointed last summer. So, maybe
well, at least he's been consistent. At least he's been consistent. He's obviously doing his work in the background, and maybe he doesn't want to be at the forefront.
Yeah, although
we've got a director of football who loves, when it's going well, loves to promote himself. Yes,
very true. Well, let's move on then, Dan. First up in the news section, Barrow away tickets have been confirmed, haven't they?
This is going to be fun, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, no surprise. It's a small allocation. I think there's some interesting reactions on Twitter to this. You've got to be realistic. The ground holds, just over 4,000, 4,500, something like that?
I think it's 5.
Yeah, something like that. And so basically, we're getting around about 12% in terms of allocation, which is about right, to be honest. It's
all we were ever going to get.
Yeah. So I mean, it's actually about.
But I'll tell you something, Barrow fans. You better sell out your part.
Yeah, definitely.
Pressure's on now.
Yeah. Interestingly, the allocation is actually 112 seated tickets and 500 terracing tickets. That's actually 100 less than the normal terracing allocation. I think that's possibly on police advice and probably to do with some of the incidents that have happened at our games this season. Maybe have had a little bit of an effect there, potentially. We don't know the details. And as it stands, it's a 3:00 kickoff. We've heard nothing else. Otherwise, have we done?
No, nothing. It's apart from the announcement that we're on sale, it's all been very quiet.
Yeah, well, see, the last time it was quite late that they announced the change to the Barrow kickoff. So yeah, the tickets go on sale to season ticket holders after the Swindon game, which could lead to some interesting scenes in the second half. People potentially leaving 10 minutes before the end of the game, possibly to go and queue for tickets at the main stand. I'm
on my deck chair at the ticket office now.
It's one of those ones, isn't it? I can see why they've done it, because they're trying to be fair on season ticket holders who work during the week and won't be able to queue on a Monday morning or something like that. But it's potentially going to lead to a really weird situation, especially with such a small allocation. We're trying to work out amongst people I go to games with as to who's going to nip out early to go and queue for the rest of us. Because you can, the club hasn't sort of publicly said this, but you don't all have to go individually. If you've got a mate who knows your details,
as long as you've got their details,
address and season ticket number, they can go and queue up on your behalf. So I think we're trying to work out whether one of us goes out or a couple of us go out or something like that.
I think it depends on the match, doesn't it? If it's 3-0 down and McKirdy scored 2, there'll be a queue of 2,000 just for the crack, won't there?
Which I mean, which is potentially farcical situation. That's why I always thought this is a really risky one to do it that way. But hey ho, it's done now, isn't it? It's sorted. Do you have an update on the loans, Dan?
Yeah.
Because there's a couple of interesting ones in here, isn't there? I mean, should we start with the one that's caused a bit of a stir over the last week? Lewis Bell. This is one that we mentioned, isn't it? We thought that potentially, because he basically failed to start or failed to come off the bench in his first 2 appearances. He then started against Grantham Town, I think, wasn't it? Oh no, it wasn't. He was left out against Grantham Town. Apologies. He started a game. I can't remember who it was against now, and he came off at half time and then didn't feature against Grantham Town. And we presumed, he probably got a knock or something like that, didn't we? Turns out we called him back. They've basically, a couple of days later, the club have basically said they're not happy with the way he's being used, so they've recalled him. And Millen's comments are very strong. I mean, just read some of here. He said, "That's annoying me, that one. We've called him back. He's got to see his loan out, but that's not worked, that one, for whatever reason. He won't be going back there, nor will any other players from us. We need to find somewhere else because he needs to play games. He will be looking for that. He has 10 days, something like that, on the loan. That won't be happening again. He's come back to us because they're not going to use him, and I don't want him going there. There's no point. He's been training with us this week, but he can't be involved with us until the loan finishes." Warrington Town's chairman wasn't very happy about this, though, was he? I think it's fair to say. He bit back and actually replied both to John Coleman's article, not at John, but obviously at the quote, and also to the club's official article, saying, "Not as annoying as how incorrect the narrative on it is. Sometimes loans don't work out for a number of reasons, so why not just say that instead of painting a picture about my club? There's many things I could say, but let's say he wasn't recalled after he was subbed at half-time on Sat." I mean, obviously he's been recalled because he wasn't included in the squad in the midweek game, potentially. But it's quite messy, this, isn't it? I'm not a fan of the way I'll be honest with you, I'm not a fan of the way Millen's handled it. I don't know what your thoughts are, Dan.
It was a random loan to begin, because it's not as though we're some sort of, relationship with clubs around Warrington,
Yeah, we played them a couple of years ago, didn't we?
Yeah.
That's the only link I can think.
Yeah, I mean, if he'd ended up at Penrith or something, you'd say fair enough. But no, it was a bit of a strange one, this, and it clearly hasn't gone to plan. Whether he's not good enough, he's not ready, or he's too good for them and they don't want to be shown up, who knows? It's
a strange one. It's like you said, we haven't really got a link with him. You think somewhere like maybe Lancaster City, where we developed a link with at the start of the season with Fishburne, would have made more sense, and it's the same level. But then again, maybe Lancaster just didn't want him or didn't need him for their squad. Maybe they're fine in the right wing position. That's what you got to remember. We can't just say take him, because the club might go, well, we've got a right winger. We don't really need a right winger at the moment.
Yeah.
And I mean, we've got to remember that they're going for promotion, Warrington. And he's played that 45 minutes, and by all accounts, from people who were there, said he didn't do much. He was ineffective, and they've got a lad on loan from Preston, and he started every game since he went in. So he's clearly good enough. So, I think
for the player, just chalk it down to experience.
Maybe a little bit of a reality check for the club and the player, maybe, that he needs
possibly.
That he probably needs to toughen up.
I think, like I say, chalk it down to experience. We're clearly not going to converse with Warrington, especially from the comments the chairman made. And watch us draw them in the cup next year now.
Yeah, you can see that can happen. But yeah, I think for Lewis, he needs to go somewhere and play games, but he needs to have to toughen up. Because the one thing that stood out for me when he's played is he looks a bit lightweight. He might have all the talent in the world, but when Liam McCarron broke into the first team, he had a bit of toughness about him, didn't he? He wasn't the biggest player, but he didn't shirk a challenge, did he? And that's why a club like Leeds were happy to pay the money to sign him.
Yeah. And McCann's obviously kicked on a bit as well, hasn't he? Because he's been on the fringes of the Leeds. He's been on the bench, etc. You know.
Absolutely. Let's move on then. Well, Josh Dixon didn't play because Workington didn't play. There's some sort of weird sort of break at that level, wasn't there, this year? I think there's a weekend where there was no games. Very odd.
Very bizarre.
But then they actually haven't got that many games left, Workington, and they're obviously in strong position to go up.
I think a lot of the lower non-league teams, leagues now, what they do is they cram the first half of the season. Is they play a lot of midweek early, and then it leaves the later half midweeks for catch-up. For any postponed, etc.
Yeah, that is generally what they do, to be fair. Taylor Charters, he's came on as a sub after 81 minutes in the 4-0 win over Alfreton Town in the National League North for Gateshead. We'll talk about that one in the X-Files section later, won't we? He was booked in the 93rd minute. Well, must have been doing a bit of time wasting or something like that. His loan spell's up now. The club haven't confirmed if he's staying with them. Have they yet, really? Because, I mean, they're top of the league at the moment, level on points with Brackley Town, but they've got a much better goal difference. It's one of those ones, I think I'd probably prefer him to stay there as much as, you know, it would be nice to have him back and maybe have him in the first team squad. He's probably not going to be starting games based on the way Millen's doing things at the moment. I'd rather he was there at a club that was doing well, even if he's only getting maybe 30, 40 minutes a game. It's still better than sitting on the bench and not actually coming on for us, isn't it?
I think with the news that Guy may be available this weekend, I think he'll probably stay there on loan because we would have Guy, Riley, Whelan and Devine who can all play central, can't they? Devitt can drop in. So it's probably. I mean, we'll probably find out either it's Friday today or tomorrow.
Yeah,
but it would make sense for all parties if he stayed there.
Yeah, definitely. I think that'd be the best way of doing it. He's doing well there. 6 appearances, 2 as a sub, and that's 6 appearances. 2 of those were as a sub, and 1 goal. So not too bad so far for Taylor. Not quite as good for Tristan in terms of appearances so far, is it, at Grimsby Town? He's made 6 appearances as well, but 4 of those have been as a sub, and he's yet to get off the mark in terms of goals. He started his first 2 games of that loan spell, but since he's been restricted to sub role, and a couple of those have been very late sub roles, haven't they, as well? I think last weekend possibly as well. It was only the final 20 minutes he played against Aldershot. Not really working out for him so far.
It's a very similar loan spell to the one Mampala's having, isn't it? Who we're just about to come on to. Yeah. As in, they've both started a couple of games. Now they're both on the bench, and, are these players at their true level now?
I mean, if you're not getting starts at the top end of National League, I mean, even if we go down, you wouldn't want to keep them next season, would you, really? It's...
To be fair, top end of National League is equivalent to League Two anyway. But especially in the case of Mampala, though, if he's struggling to start now, he's
well, he might as well move on to Mampala. Then obviously he's at Weymouth. He's made 3 appearances. One of those is as a sub and not scored yet. He was, I think, one game he didn't even come off the bench, I think, for them. Again, I mean, to be honest, he's one of those ones. As soon as he went on loan there, I think most people were like, well, he's not going to come back, is he? He's out of contract at the end of the season. We're not going to give him a new deal, really. I mean, unless he went there and scored 10, 15 goals, even in which case...
It was a cheap gamble who hasn't worked, wasn't he?
Yeah, it's one of those ones, isn't it? And it goes to show sometimes getting these players from Premier League academies, they're just not ready for it half the time. Occasionally you get very lucky, don't you? You pick one out and they're ripe and ready. But more often than not, they're just not up to it.
Yeah, we all know the risk with these type of players. Mm. He looked all right pre-season. He obviously impressed in training. He obviously hasn't kicked on. No. Once the season's got going, everyone's up to speed. He's without being harsh to lad, he's just not our level.
No, I think like they said, he's not going to get a new contract, is he? I mean, that's the difference with Abrahams. We're stuck with Abrahams for another year, so no getting rid of him easily, is there? But yeah, there you go.
Maybe that's why Holt was so quiet. He's he's constantly on the phone getting Abrams a move for the summer.
Yeah, I somehow think not. But yeah, that pretty much sums up the loan spell so far. So, I mean, not really going that well overall, other than Charters. He's getting a bit of game time, playing in a good team, which is good experience for him. And, he's out of contract at the end of the season, isn't he? I can't remember if he's got one of those options potentially on it, but I think he's
yes, he has. I'm pretty sure he has.
I think he's worth keeping another year, especially if he's doing pretty well in this loan spell. Give him a bit more time to develop this. Will hopefully toughen him up a little bit as well. So yeah. We'll see how that goes. I've not put this in the running order, Dan, but it might be worth talking about the kiosk stuff, the members meeting that's coming up soon.
Yeah, a little Unit of 40 update. Kiosk have announced their members meeting for Thursday next week, the 24th.
Yes, 24th.
It's at 6:30. 6:30 in Foxes, 6:00 for 6:30.
Yeah.
This is your chance, folks. If you've recently joined due to the UF drive, or if you're a long-standing member who's, not happy with the relative silence, this is your chance. Kiosk have also said there will be a Zoom available for exiles. I think you're going to log in on that, aren't you?
Yeah, I'm going to try and log in that. I mean, I do feel they could have maybe tried a bit more to get it on a match day, possibly. I mean, they were going to do that before Christmas, weren't they, for the Bradford game? But maybe they're thinking,
for the Bradford game, but
that was based on lower member numbers.
I don't think they were expecting many for that, were they?
No.
Yeah. No. And also, if anyone's still sort of sat on the fence wanting to see what's going to happen there, you can join on the night of the meeting.
Yes.
So you could go down at 6, fill the details in, pay your tenner, and you're allowed to attend. So there's, if you're really bothered, there is zero excuse. Obviously if you're working, etc., fair enough. But no, it's a chance to grill the kiosk board on anything you want. And believe me, I know there's going to be a long list of topics from speaking to people who are looking forward to going. So yeah, get yourselves down or online if you're in exile, and let's see what the crack is.
Yeah, it's your chance to get involved and start making a change, isn't it? That's the thing, for a positive change for the future. Right, let's go on to the match review section, Dan. We're not going to go into too much detail on this because neither me or you went to this game, neither did Mike, and we're basically relying on the highlights, aren't we, essentially? Because I didn't actually even listen to the game because I was actually out having a meal on the Saturday afternoon. It always seems to happen, really, that, doesn't it? When neither of us go to the game, I'm always out having a meal.
Colchester, a meal on a Saturday afternoon.
It was a sort of late lunch or late dinner, if you want to call it. There you go.
Metropolitan types.
I know, just typical. So, Colchester United 2, Cal United 2. I suppose we've
two goals.
I know, that's something to get excited about. I mean, I suppose with the equaliser coming in the final few minutes, you could look at it as a point gain, Dan. But I mean, having taken the lead on 51 minutes and threw it away in 5 mad minutes against a team right down near the bottom in the battle with you, it's got to be a missed opportunity, surely.
At 5-3, you would have took a point from an away game at Colchester.
Yeah.
But having watched it, there's the argument that it was possibly 2 dropped.
But then when you look at the stats,
I don't know.
They don't make for very good reading, do they, against a team that's around you in the league? That's the problem.
I think it's a point on the road, and that's it.
Yeah. I mean, the reports we had from Blues fans that we know who went to the game was that they weren't very complimentary about the performance, were they, really? I mean, it was described as quite a scabby point by a few people, wasn't it? That, we were very lucky to get something out of it. And if we played against a team that weren't as wasteful as Colchester, we would have been battered. So it's... the key thing is it's a point gained, isn't it? And we've got to build on that, really. We've ended that losing run. We went for 4 games without a win. So
that was a big plus, wasn't it? We've got out of the rut. We've got a draw. We've scored 2. Yes, we've conceded 2, but we were playing a new formation. Yeah. But some positives.
Yeah. Let's talk about the goals then. Obviously, we watched them on YouTube. I mean, the YouTube highlights, there's only really 3 chances for us. I think Windsor had a chance, didn't he? The keeper well saved as well. But the goal, is it fair to say we're probably going to be relying a lot on Amari Patrick to produce a bit of magic for the rest of the season to get us out of games sometimes? It's
I think it may be a feature of one or two games.
Yeah, I mean,
we all know what he can do, the burst of pace, it's...
Yeah, a little flick inside, that kind of thing. I mean, it's a brilliant goal, wasn't it, this one? He picked up a flick from, or a ball from Show Silver on the left wing, took on his fullback, cut inside, and then just as he got into the air, he curled an absolutely brilliant goal into the far corner, didn't he? Keeper's got no chance.
Probably a contender for goal of the season, isn't it?
Definitely, yeah. Just for the individual bit of skill to get himself free and into space, and then just hit. He takes it fairly early, doesn't it? It's kind of like there's no build up in that sense, was there? You just hit it and it flies past the keeper. Really, really good goal. Those United fans behind the goal certainly enjoyed it as well. In stark contrast, Colchester's equaliser was quite a scrappy affair, wasn't it, Dan? I think it's fair to say, yeah. Corner from the left, headed out, and there was a Collier player there. I mean, he had no pressure on him. He had time to hook it back in, and Smith lost his marker, which was Whelan. He was sort of caught napping, really. Wins the header and plants it past Howard. No chance, really, for Howard on that goal, was there? I think it's fair to say. And
no.
When you see that going, you're like, that's just typical, isn't it? And then that was on 69 minutes.
League 2 goal, wasn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, 5 minutes later, 74 minutes. I mean, if you thought the equaliser was scrappy, this was just a shambles, wasn't it? I mean, it's they failed to stop a cross coming in from the left, United, and then it fell to Wright, who's on loan from Aston Villa at Colchester. He got 3 goes at it, and no one managed to get the ball away. A couple of sort of feeble blocks, wasn't there? And then he just hammers the ball into the roof of the net from close range on the third attempt. And it's one of those ones you stand around and think, well, that just sums up our season, doesn't it, really? Shambolic. But yeah, Dan, United did keep battling away and got the reward late on. Pretty fair to say. I mean, Patrick showing a good willingness to attack, didn't he? He drove forward with the ball, picks out Riley on the right, and he feints to go and shoot with his, cross with his right, goes back onto his left, and he curls in a great little cross. And you can't tell from the angle of the camera, but somehow Silva manages to completely lose his marker and stay onside. Tried his best to miss the header, I think it's fair to say. I'm probably being a bit harsh there, but it wasn't an easy one because he sort of had to bend backwards and down, didn't he, to get to the ball. Yeah, puts it in the back of the net and gets his first goal for the Blues, which is a nice thing to see, isn't it? And
yeah, Keith Millen said after the game that apparently he had a bit of double vision. I wonder if he'd had a slight knock or something of the head. And luckily for us, he saw the right ball and it somehow went in the net. So I did wonder as well, with him saying he's got double vision, would there be any protocol for head injury? We've not heard anything.
No, it's just
so must assume that he's. I think it's maybe one where they just sort of keep an eye on them and they were happy with him. So
yeah, possibly that. So yeah, that was it, and then but United managed to hold on and take a point back with them up the road. Like we say, fairly satisfied with that point in the end. It's a building block to work from, I guess. Just talking about a couple more bits about the game generally. The formation. So Millen did promise a change of formation, didn't he, for this game after the sort of shambolic efforts against Port Vale. And everyone was anticipating a switch to 4-3-3, weren't they? And potentially getting maybe Devitt straight into the team and a bit more creativity and a bit more strength in midfield in terms of numbers. But actually what he changed to was a 3-4-2-1 or a 3-4-3-3, wasn't it? John Mellish
3-4-3-3?
3-4-3, sorry. 3-4-3.
I'm disappointed with only a point if we had 14 players on the pitch.
We probably still only would manage a point with 14.
Well, yeah.
But yeah, 3-4-3. John Mellish returned to the starting lineup. I mean, if the stats are to be believed, it didn't really do much in terms of getting us on top in the game, did it really? They dominated possession.
Yeah.
And in terms of shots, we didn't really have that many either. Gotta wonder if this is really an option going forward, playing this formation. What do you think?
I think it might away from home. Because it certainly puts an extra body at the back.
Is it the back where the problem is though? That's the thing.
I think it's a midfield. Well, we all think it's a midfield, don't we?
Not only do we get dominate there, but we've got no creativity in there. If you go 4-3-3, you can stick that extra bit of creativity, but have a couple of players in there who can deal with the other issues and be a bit.
As I alluded to earlier, there's rumours that Guy might not be far off, and I do wonder if Guy is fit, if he'll then bring Devitt in.
Possibly.
Because he knows he can rely on Guy to do a bit of hard yard.
I think you're more likely to see Guy, Mellish and Whelan playing in there.
Possibly.
Which I'm not overly keen on, but...
It's almost two attacking midfielders then, isn't it?
I mean, you could. You could basically stick in...
I said this last week. Who would be a manager?
Oh, yeah, of course. You could maybe put Whelan back to right back and go back to your midfield three of last season of Riley, Mellish and Guy, which we haven't really seen for quite a while, have we?
I think it would be harsh. Who would you be dropping then? If you put Whelan at right back,
one of Roberts or Armour, I guess.
I think it would be harsh on Roberts because by all accounts he did all right.
Yeah, or maybe Armour just needs a break from the team. It's one of these things we say it might be harsh on people, but we're struggling at the bottom, and you're gonna have to make harsh decisions, aren't you? That's the problem.
Exactly.
He's made some comments about fitness of players and stuff like that, I think, this week, which for me were a bit contradictory. He talks about the fact that Silva's barely played any games for Sutton, and he'd have to get used to playing full 90 minutes, and that's...
There's been a couple of comments this week. I think it was after Port Vale. He said, there's no more days off. Then this week, yesterday, well, we had a day off today because we changed, because there was meant to be a reserve match, wasn't there? Yeah. In the Central League Cup, and that got lost to the weather. So they changed it round, and he's shouting about a day off, and I'm thinking, hang on, he said there'll be no more days off.
Yeah,
and then
a little bit contradictory.
He made something about, I think was it Devitt and Dennis saying they weren't ready for the start, but they were ready for the start.
He said they were ready for the start was the first thing he said, but then he showed the match fit is fine, but it's the sharpness and stuff. And then he says, but Silva, he's had to get used to playing full 90 minutes, and he's quite tired and thing. It's like, well, how does it apply to one and not the other? And we're crying out for creativity in midfield. That's the thing that's driving me mad about this. There just seems to be a total lack of trust, and the obsession is with basically getting players in there who are tough and hard. And what's the point in that if you're not actually winning games? They might be tough and hard and win the headers.
That Port Vale game, in his first 10 minutes on the pitch, Devitt asked for the ball more than the rest of the midfield combined for the first hour.
And his ability, and you could see his ability to turn on the ball and get the ball passed forward or get it out wide instead of Whelan. He's not trying not to be too critical of him because I don't think he's a midfielder, to be brutally honest. I think he's either a centre back or a right back. But you can see with him, he's a lot more nervous and he's a lot more like looking to play it back to the centre backs all the time. Devitt doesn't do that as much. He will occasionally, of course, he will. Any player would, but he looks to try and drive it forward, and we need that in midfield. We really are lacking that. I mean, we were at the game, as we said, with Colchester, but a midfield too of Mellish and Whelan, in terms of quality, you're going to be really lacking there. It's not really a massive surprise he struggled to keep hold of the ball for
the word is robust for that pairing, I think, isn't it?
It is, and I'm not convinced 3-4-3 is the way forward in any shape or form. I think he probably will use it for away games. But I
think for away games, away to teams at the bottom, which is what most of our away games are actually.
True.
I can see it being utilised. But who's to say we might now maybe do a 4-3-3 this weekend?
Possibly.
With possibly Guy back, Devitt a bit more up to speed. It might be a completely different team.
Yeah,
compared to recent weeks.
I want to judge. I wouldn't be amazed if we picked exactly the same team, though, if I'm honest.
Yeah.
It's just based on experience. I think once he gets an idea into his head, he tries to stick with it for a little bit, and then he panics later on. But yeah, I mean, something else I picked up in Millen's comments. He's always talking about the fact that we look at what the opposition's weaknesses are and strengths are. And I think, why not build a just try? It's clearly not working doing that. That's one thing that's obvious. Why not just try and think, right, what's my best possible team to have a go at the opposition and just get at them? And try and work to our strengths, not worry about what their strengths and weaknesses are. Let's have a go at them. That's just my opinion, but
especially at home.
Yeah, definitely. It's
especially at home.
That definitely needs to see a bit more of that, especially this weekend.
Yeah.
But overall, I mean, long journey to do. Not a nice place to go. In terms
Just speaking of a long journey, I think a following of just over 250, considering
Really
the position
impressive.
with him, was fantastic.
Really impressive as well.
Really was. So well done to everyone who travelled.
And that's, well before payday as well. So fantastic to see him and Minnie going down. And nice to see James Phillips back in the commentary box as well, getting some regular commentary.
James Phillips, yeah.
Yeah, good to hear him back,
He's not been on Hunted, which is on telly at the moment.
No, certainly not. But we don't care about the reasons now. Let's just forget about that. And let's talk about the fact that it's nice. I mean, and this is not a criticism, those who've done the commentary since then, but it's nice to have someone who sort of is a bit more up to speed and knows.
It's a familiarity aspect, isn't it?
It does make a difference sometimes.
Yeah.
I think you got that with Matt Newsom a bit, but he's an experienced commentator, does the rugby league.
And Andy Wood did one game, didn't he? And Andy Wood's a good commentator.
Yeah.
Team.
Yeah, definitely.
But he's not in a position to do it full time, so
no, definitely. Right, I think that sums up the Colchester game, Dan. Not really a huge amount to go into detail because we didn't watch it, so we don't really want to talk about stuff we weren't really, there to see. So let's move on and let's take a break, and we'll be back with the second half of the show shortly.
Hi, this is George Tanner. You are listening to the Brunton Bugle.
Could do with him back now, couldn't we, really?
I was going to say, are we on a reminiscing here?
Yeah, we could do the right back right now, couldn't we, really, in the team? But there you go.
I'll tell you what, I'll make it my mission to find a couple of players and get some new voices.
Yeah, we'll try and do that.
A bit of Toby Shaw-Silver or something,
Yes. Let's try and do that soon. Just a reminder, obviously, you can subscribe to the podcast on all good podcast apps, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Acast, wherever you get your podcast, click subscribe, and whenever a new episode comes out, you'll get it pretty much straight away once it's uploaded. As well as that, obviously, if you can give us a review on any of those podcast apps, I think Apple and Spotify are the key ones. They do reviews, and you've got some fantastic reviews in Apple from people. Thank you very much for those. And obviously, you can follow us on social media, at Brunton Bugle on Twitter, and the search for Brunton Bugle on Facebook. Obviously, we're also on the Communities.net message board and the Be Just and Fear Not Facebook group as well. And you can email us, bruntonbugle@gmail.com. Another reminder as well that the sponsor this season, the second half of the show, is the Carl United Sports Club London branch. The London branch is open to all Carl United fans, and they've got members from Cornwall to Dundee, Houston to Singapore, and of course every part of London and the South East. They regularly meet up at away games, and they also arrange many social events, supporters games, and do a lot of fundraising for the club. They'll be providing us with information for the away games as part of their preview section this season too. You can find out more about London Branch at their website, carlisle-londonbranch.org. Okay, Dan, we've got a question from Mike, because obviously he's not with us again this week, but he sent us a question that I'm going to do now, and we'll answer it later on in the show. It gives us a little bit of time to think about it, doesn't it?
Come on, Mike, hit us.
Here's Mike's question.
A notable player who played for both clubs was Vincent Perricard. Which of the many clubs that he played for during his career did he score the most goals for? And I'm going to pit you off against each other. And how many goals did he score for that club? I don't expect you to get the exact number, so whoever's closest wins.
Oh, that's a good question.
I
think I know, but I'm not 100%.
Did we not do him in one of our previous things when we were guessing clubs?
Yes, we did. We definitely did. So, yeah, it's not Juventus because he only played once for them, so we know that.
Yeah.
There you go. All right, we'll have a little think about that one, won't we? Right, let's do the behind enemy line section, Dan. We've finally got one. There's been a few weeks I've been busy and just not been able to fit it in, but it returns. We spoke to Rich from the Loathed Strangers podcast. That's an interesting name. I probably should ask him what that's about. I didn't. There you go. Lots of topics covered in this one. Obviously, the fact that Swindon have kind of defied expectations this season, how the new owner's been getting on since he took over last summer, and of course, we talked about Harry McKirdy. Here's the chat I had with Rich earlier this week. Rich, when we spoke back in August, the takeover saga at Swindon had just come to a close, and I think many were expecting a struggle for you guys. I know on our podcast, our preview podcast, I think at least one or two of us predicted you guys might go down. But I seem to recall you were quietly optimistic about being able to compete, and even so, you must be pretty pleased with how things have turned out in the circumstances.
Yeah, very pleased. I think that optimism when we last talked was simply the calibre player that we were bringing in. It just didn't feel like a relegation side, and what does a relegation side feel like, I guess, is the question. But it just, yeah, we people like Louis Reed came in and Johnny Williams, Ben Gladwin, and it just was like, okay, well, this is far more reassuring what it could have been, which we were expecting, like League Two jobbers, maybe a couple of non-league players as a worst case scenario, and that didn't happen. But in terms of the way the season has panned out, it's been fine. It's really weird, isn't it? Because the majority of the teams in League Two would snap their hands off.
We would. I'll tell you that right now. We would.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And yet there's been a little bit of angst within the fan base in the last few weeks, which was helped, alleviated by a win last weekend. But yeah, very happy at a personal level with the fact that we're not in danger of dropping out of the Football League. But really, we want us to kick on and at least make the playoffs. But that could go either way.
Yeah, there still seems to be quite a real good sort of feel-good factor around the club, especially obviously involved in the takeover, and obviously you had the big cup game against Manchester City a few weeks ago as well. I mean, how is the new owner doing so far?
Yeah, he's doing all right. So the cult of Clem is still in full swing. It has simmered down a little bit. Every time he's in the country, he finds himself on Sky Sports. So his PR machine is well oiled. But in terms of the day-to-day, that's done by people like Rob Angus, the CEO, who's a Swindon Town fan, previously the vice chair of the Supporters Trust, so he knows Swindon Town inside out, and he's got the difficult task of getting us back financially sound ground, or on sound ground, and then keeping the fans happy. And really and truthfully, the fans are happy if the team are doing well. So all that good stuff behind the scenes kind of gets forgotten about when we draw 3 in a row that we should have won 3 in a row, and then we lose a couple which we shouldn't have lost, and then suddenly we're back into the old football fan mode of talking about managers getting sacked. But they've done a really sound job, considering their goal was to just stay in the league this season, but it has to be a promotion push now. But in terms of the PR, it's been very, very, very good from the owners.
Yeah, when we played you back in August, we picked up what turns out was a fairly rare win for us this season. Our local radio commentary that day, because I didn't go, I listened to it on the radio, they said that your defence is actually looking a bit shaky and a bit inexperienced and could be got at, which obviously on the day proved to be right, but seemed to be doing okay. I mean, how generally is the squad done so far this season? How are the... we'll talk about one player in particular later. I think we all know who we're going to talk about. Yeah. But generally, how's the squad done?
Yeah, generally really well. I think the back four when we played you last would have been Rob Hunt, Critchlow, Conroy, and Kessler Hayden, and 2 of those are no longer at the club. But they all 2 of those were players that had played for Swindon previously. 2 were brand new loan players. So I would probably put it down to that more than anything. Our defence is reasonably good. We've just gone back to a back 4, which is how we played. How we set up against Carlisle last time, but we've been playing with 3 centre-backs and wingers for the majority of the season. But the squad bedded in well. It did better, possibly overachieved early on. We went on an absolutely terrific away run. So the points that we were dropping at the county ground were being sort of forgotten about, because every time we played away, we won for a good while. And since then, we've had a little bit of wobble. But the new players integrated really well. They're in line with the philosophy of Ben Garner. And we can't ask for much more, really, from this season, given the restrictions we have with the budget and who we can bring in. So those who have come in have done a pretty good job.
Yeah. You mentioned obviously your gaffer there, Ben Garner. He had a very tough time at Bristol Rovers, and he's still occasionally getting stick from Joey Barton. I seem to remember every now and then. He seems to pipe up about him, doesn't he?
Yeah,
who
doesn't get stick from Joey Barton? Yeah. I mean, to be honest, Ben Garner's not without flaws. He is very, very... He sticks to his game plan. Yeah. And a lot of criticism from fans has been that awful phrase, plan B. There's no plan B. And what is a plan B is pretty much, the question. But we do like to stick to the passing philosophy. And when things aren't going our way, we don't really deviate from that plan. And Ben Garner and his squad are very guarded. So Ben Garner does his media duties, but not a lot more. So I don't think I've heard Ben Garner's name sung within the stands, and they are still quite a mysterious bunch, really. Like, there are players that I don't even know what they sound like because they don't do interviews. The official media guys don't do audio. It's all written text. So, you know, there are some of the guys I've never heard talk unless they appear on BBC in the post-match, and that's not always the case either. So, yeah, Ben Garner's not without criticism, but he's doing much, much better than what I thought. I wasn't over the moon. I don't think anyone was over the moon with the appointment of Ben Garner because of that Bristol Rovers spell, but he's got it. He can be a pro manager, but whether he can take us on to the next level is a different matter altogether. But at the moment, so far, so good. Well, just about.
I mean, you talk about plan B there. I'd love a plan A in the first place for us right now. Well, I can't put it off any longer. Let's talk about the Clown Prince, the pantomime villain himself.
Ooh, yes.
Harry McKirdy. I mean, there is absolutely no doubt, I think most Carlisle fans will tell you this, that he has got talent. I mean, in his first season with us, I think he played 35, 37 games, scored 11 goals from the wing, and we didn't keep him on, which probably tells you all you need to know, really, that there was serious problems with his attitude off the pitch and his behaviour and the way he interacted with fans, especially. And that seems to have dogged him at every club he's been at in the past, but it seems to be going okay for him at Swindon. I've seen a few Swindon fans saying, look, he is a bit of an idiot, but he's our idiot, almost the saying. And how's he doing so far? I mean, he seems to be the star man in the team from what I can see from the outside.
Yeah, it's so funny, Harry McKirdy, because I don't think I'm fully on the Harry McKirdy hype train just yet, because until recently, he is head down, run at the goal, even though there are options elsewhere. He would rather score or attempt a world-class, mazy run or 30-yarder than play it to somebody who is free. So I do get frustrated with that, but he had the month of his life where pretty much everything went to plan for him in January when he scored 4 in a game. He scored that goal against Man City. But I will say a lot of his teammates do the grunt work for him, and they put it on the plate. The goal he scored on the weekend, everyone was singing Harry McKirdy's name, but Ellis Iandelo's ball for that was absolutely incredible. Made it to the point where he couldn't miss. He is still cheeky. He is still in a position when it goes wrong with Harry McKirdy at Swindon, it will go wrong in exactly the same way as it has done at every one of his clubs. He kind of found himself on Twitter and then disappeared again because he referred to watching the Swindon Town women's team as watching paint dry, which obviously becomes a club issue, and he is his up the Chelsea first sort of mentality. So he's no different to what everyone else has experienced, but the difference is he's scoring and he's won the fans over. So, and I think I put that down to that elusive nature of the club again. Like, we don't really know the personalities of Swindon Town Football Club other than Harry McKirdy. So him going against the grain of what media trained footballers are like always goes down well. We had Simon Ferry at the club for a few years, and he didn't beat by the drum of what is acceptable, even though he was much more lighter than Harry. Harry definitely has a little edge to it, which will go wrong eventually. But until then, fans are enjoying it. Harry's enjoying it. He's scoring goals. So let the good times continue, because we need those goals at the moment.
I mean, he's 100% going to get absolute pelters at the weekend, because I mean, I think it wasn't potentially going to be that bad, but then he made a comment recently. I don't know if you saw it on. I think it was on Instagram. He's up for, any of the Carlisle fans listening who don't realise this, he was up for the a FIFA Ultimate Team thing, and they show that player card thing, and it was a photo of him in it. It wasn't actually a Carlisle shirt; it's a Carlisle training shirt. There was a pre-season photo that was taken, and he basically said, "Please get it changed. I don't like Carlisle." And I was thinking to myself, you don't need to say that, do you? I mean, bear in mind, we pretty much kick-started his career because he'd done nothing at Villa. He'd not done much in his loan spells, and it's one of those ones you think, just keep your mouth shut. But that's him. He's a character like that. Thanks for your time, Rich. Really appreciate it. So before we finish, let's have a prediction for this weekend's game, and just a quick thought on what your hopes are for the rest of the season.
The hopes for me, I mean, I think in terms of Swindon, there's still many fans that will want to squeeze into that third automatic place, but I don't think we will do that. We have to go for the playoffs as a minimum. And in order to do that, you have to beat the teams that are 22nd in the league. And if the game goes ahead, because I think the weather's pretty bad, I mean, I'll be saying maybe 2-1 Swindon, but our away form isn't as good as what it once was. We've lost to you already, and we are known to lose against some of the struggling teams. So we lost to Barrow, for example, away from home as an instant example. So I would love us to go. It's still, 16 games left for Swindon, so the automatics are still there. We're only about 8 points adrift, not even that. So we can certainly compete to get up there, but playoffs as a minimum would be lovely. But even if we don't, after everything, we have to have context. And everybody, my podcast didn't even do a predictions this year because we didn't have a clue how it would end up. And, everything looked like we'd be happy with 22nd. We're not going down. That's all that matters. But football doesn't work like that. Football fans can't be expected to go, okay, after 46 games, didn't we try hard and didn't we do well? If we've been in the playoff positions, if we've been in the automatics, then we should be striving for that. And I think we're no different right now.
Cheers, Rich. Thanks for your time and all the best for the rest of the season after this weekend.
Likewise.
Yeah, thanks once again to Rich for giving up his time to speak to us early this week about all things Swindon. Certainly having a decent season out there, I think it's fair to say, Dan. Not one that any of us expected on the pod. We all, I think, did all of us predict them to go down? I think we all predicted them to struggle, at the very least, from what I remember, but not 100% on that one.
Yeah, it's a massive role reversal from when we went down there under Chris Beach. Christ, that seems ages ago, doesn't it?
God, it does as well.
But went under Chris Beach, and let's be honest, we played them off the park a bit in that game.
Yeah, by all accounts, isn't it? It's
Yeah.
Blimey. Right, well, let's talk about the game this weekend then, Dan. Obviously, 3 o'clock kick off at Brunton back. If it goes ahead, obviously, with the weather over the next couple of days, it'd be interesting to see what actually happens. I've already managed to secure the usage of the car tomorrow in case the trains are off. So I will be definitely up to the game, I think it's fair to say. Referee for this one is Oliver Langford from the West Midlands. It's his 14th season as an AFL referee. I think he's been refereeing at championship level for about 6 or 7 seasons now. He's taken charge of 23 games so far this season, having got 85 yellow cards and 2 red cards. Not many red cards, man, only 2 then.
Yeah.
Last took charge of United game, obviously we've been a championship referee, it was a long time ago, August 2015. He oversaw the 4-1 defeat at Plymouth Argyle. Interesting things to note from this game. Joe Thompson scored his only goal for the club, in injury time, wasn't it? A very late strike in this game. And Kevin Asai made his only start for the club as well.
Whatever happened to Kevin Asai?
I think he went out to Malaysia, didn't he? Something like that, and played a bit of football, or Thailand maybe possibly as well. But I think he's playing like in a very lower league in France at the moment, because I think...
Give me 1 minute and I will tell you.
Early this season, I have a feeling he played against Toulouse in the French Cup, in a French Cup game for his team. Not 100% on that one, but I'm pretty sure he did.
I'm just getting it up on the old computer. And he is at Aubagne FC, Aubagne.
Wow. That must be a very lower level of front, I'm guessing.
Yes, yeah. He's 30 years old now.
Yeah, it's not none that old, actually, is he, to be fair? He was quite young when he came to us. Right, head-to-head record. It'll be the 50th meeting between the two sides. And previously, United have won 13. 21 have been a draw, and Swindon have won 15. So, interesting, because you don't normally get the draw being the highest number, do you? In the head-to-heads. No. Quite a surprise. Last season, obviously, they were in League One. They were relegated, finishing in 23rd place. Their current position is 8th on 46 points from 30 games. 14 positions at 18 points ahead of United. Bloody hell. Their manager is Ben Garner. He was appointed last summer. We don't know how long he's kept. This is really annoying me, right? When I started doing it in this format of looking at how long managers have been at clubs, I noticed that a few of them I was finding out, but I think about the last 3 or 4, they've not stated how long their contracts are. Imagine if that happened up here, people would just be fuming, wouldn't they? Be constantly like, how long is his contract? Want to know? We want to, wouldn't they? Very odd behaviour, that, I think. He's only previously managed one other club, that's Bristol Rovers, and I think it's probably fair to say, Dan, it was quite an underwhelming appointment for Swindon fans. Quite a surprise, wasn't it, when he got the job in the summer after the takeover was completed? Because obviously John McGreal was originally appointed to the role, wasn't he?
And then he left after about 2 weeks, didn't he?
Yeah, he basically saw what a shambles it was because the takeover had been sorted at that point and left. He's done a decent job though, Garner, hasn't he? In very difficult circumstances, having to put together a squad very late with not many pre-season games. They struggled in pre-season, and early on in the season, obviously they won their opening game, but then they lost to us. But they really picked up after that, didn't he? He's done a really good job, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, he's done well. They had a good cup run as well. Obviously, they got Man City on telly, where good old Mr. McKirdy scored a goal. And speaking of, he's got a new contract, hasn't he? Because they're obviously expecting bids for him in the summer. But
Again, don't know how long that contract is. Weird. But there you go.
No, he's done well because, let's be honest, they were a complete mess when he came in.
Yeah.
I mean, when we played them, I think they'd actually just signed 2 or 3 of them, hadn't they?
Yeah.
Was it Johnny Williams, the Welsh lad?
Yeah, he wasn't fit. I don't think he played in that game.
He's a quality player at this level.
Yeah.
He shouldn't be in League Two. Christ.
No. Injuries are the reason, though, isn't it, really, with him?
Yeah.
But there you go. But yeah.
And then I'm just going to say, Williams, McKirdy and Payne are the 3 who've really impressed me with Swindon. And
yeah.
If they manage to keep all 3 of them for next season,
we
could have a real season.
Yeah, definitely. So Garner's a UEFA Pro licensed coach. He's got no playing experience, but he's done all his badges, gained all his experience before he moved into management. His first full-time job, as I mentioned before, was with Bristol Rovers. Did not end well at all, that one, I think it's fair to say. Current Rovers boss, Joey Barton, is repeatedly criticised him publicly, hasn't he? He's been quite vocal about what a mess he left the club in, Garner, and he's basically very public about it. Didn't look too great, did it, when Swindon went to Bristol
Joey
Rovers?
Barton making comments. Fancy that.
I know. And Swindon obviously then he did it in the build-up to the game against Swindon earlier in the season. And of course, what happened, Swindon beat them 3-1 quite comfortably in that game. So probably best to keep his trap shut in the future.
I wondered if he went for a beer in the manager's office afterwards.
He apparently said, I'll happily give him 20 minutes to explain exactly what he's done wrong in management. I think, you got really high opinion of yourself, Joey, I think it's fair to say. But,
he has, hasn't he?
Yeah, I mean, he's done all right in management so far, but, I mean, tone it down a little bit, mate.
Yeah.
Previously, he's had coaching experience, including spells at ATK in Swindon, West Bromwich Albion, and Crystal Palace, where he actually worked alongside Keith Millen.
Yeah.
They were both there together at the same time, so interesting one, that one. See, someone he actually knows in the game. Last time out, they beat strugglers Scunthorpe, as pretty much everybody is at the moment, bar Walsall, I think, is the only team they beat recently. Thanks to a brace from Josh Davidson, of course, Harry McKirdy goal. It was inevitable, wasn't it, really? Form-wise, they're not in that great form, actually. That win was their first win in a while, and in terms of the last 6 games, they're 17th in the last 6 games form table with a record of drawn, lost, won. So United currently actually sit second bottom in the form table, having been top only a month or 2 ago. So does show things can turn around quite quickly in League Two, can't they? I think it's fair to say.
Especially when the games come thick and fast as they are at present.
Yeah, they have, yeah. In terms of the squad, Dan, you've picked out obviously some of the key players just before, but it's not the biggest squad, is it, actually, when you look at it? They did quite well to keep themselves up near the top. I mean, they've had quite a turnover in loan players in January, haven't they? Cause obviously,
I was just going to mention that. I saw you'd put that in the notes because, they had 1 or 2 who've returned, but they've replaced them all as well, haven't they?
Yeah, I mean, they had Tyree Simpson from Ipswich, who was doing really well for them alongside McKirdy, wasn't he? I think he was a big part of how well they'd done first half of the season. He's gone back to Ipswich now.
The lad from Villa was quite good as well, wasn't he, I think?
Yeah, I think he's gone back to go out on loan somewhere else, possibly MK Dons, I think, maybe.
But the one that stands out on the recycling of loans is they brought in Louis Barry from Aston Villa.
Well, he went on loan to Ipswich, funny enough, where obviously Tyree Simpson's gone back to. And he really struggled to get game time. And he's a player who, if people aren't aware, he was, I think he started out at, was it West Brom, I think, as a kid? And then he was signed by Barcelona, went out to Spain, but then Villa brought him back to England. And he's supposed to be the next big thing. He's a really exciting talent. He's only about 17, 18.
I'm just thinking, I wonder with that, as daft as it sounds, of Aston Villa, that's Barcelona to take him for 6 months so they can sign him. There was that whisper at the time, wasn't there?
Yeah. I think that was maybe the reason to avoid having to pay as much compensation to West Brom.
Yeah.
So one of these weird things you've seen it before. The most famous one years ago. Do you remember? I think Robert Yarni. I think it was who the Croatian lad. I think he was at somewhere like Real Betis or Real Sociedad or something like that. I think, and Coventry City signed him for $2 million, and everyone's like, "Wow, this is an incredible signing." Never played a game for them, and then was signed for a little bit more than that by Real Madrid not long after. And the reason was, I think, because the Spanish team he was at wouldn't sell him to Real Madrid.
Yeah.
But they would sell him to Coventry. And Coventry basically
got
Real
like
Madrid,
a £250,000 kicker for doing it.
basically saying, you sign him, we'll give you a little bit more to take him off your hands, whatever. So it does happen occasionally, just those workarounds. But yeah,
that one with Louis Barry, I think is part of when Swindon have been told Simpson's going to Ipswich.
Yeah.
I think they've asked, because obviously they've been speaking to Villa about the other lad, saying, well, if you're getting Louis Barry back, can we take him to replace Simpson?
Yeah, I think the Ipswich move was a bit of a rude awakening for Barry, wasn't it? I think he's one everyone expected to do really well, and he's obviously struggled a little bit, and obviously I think that's maybe like, maybe he needs to drop to a lower level just to get a bit of game time as much as anything. So yeah, but yeah, as you look through it, like you said, they've lost quite a few. Not a massive amount of experience in there, though, is there really? I think it's fair to say. I mean, Mathieu Baudry, obviously, is one who's been playing at this level for quite a while. I think Dion Conroy's their captain as well. And Gladwin, I think he's one he's got a bit of experience. And Payne and Williams, you mentioned. But a lot of young players in there. Relying on a lot of young players. But yeah, I suppose
shows it can be done.
I think that helps sometimes then, having a young manager come in almost, doesn't it? Who's not as, he's basically... They might be a bit more open to his different ideas, I suppose. So, but yeah, they're very possession-based by all accounts. That's the key thing with Swindon. And even away from home or, at home, they play possession football. And they just tweak the formation, basically, to work around that. They've played four. I think they switched back to a back four recently, and they had been playing a back three. So whether they'll stick with that, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see. But yeah, should be an interesting game. In terms of injuries, Dan, for United, we'll move on to now. Bit of positive news about Callum Guy this week and Brendan Dickinson, I think it's fair to say.
Yeah, Guy is apparently the closest of our injured players to the point he could be featuring this weekend. I think with Callum Guy, if he's fit enough for the bench, he'll want to start.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any middle ground with a player like Callum Guy.
No.
He'll say, I'm ready, and he'll play.
Yeah,
I can't see him coming. Yeah, I can't see him coming onto the bench. Yeah. Dickinson is being told he doesn't need an operation, but it'll still be a little bit of time. Gimme Toure was interesting. He stepped up his training, and then I think he's maybe just slightly overdone it.
Yeah,
he's had a little reaction.
Yeah. See, it's one of those ones, they're just being cautious, aren't they? They've been out for a while. So
Millen also mentioned they've been using the 4G at Gretna a little bit. And I'm not claiming to be an expert on sports injuries, but changing surface from grass to 4G, when you're recovering from injury, you don't want to be swapping between them too much, until you've got your full fitness back, seem to be the...
I mean, remember we had that with Michael Bridges. He couldn't train when they had to train indoors on the Neil Sports Centre, couldn't he, because of his knee issues. So it does happen. So that obviously, in terms of long-term injuries, Kelvin Mellon, Joel Senior and Rod McDonald are all still unavailable, and Rod's probably the only one who's going to be anywhere near with that one, I think it's fair to say. I mean,
Senior's next season, and Mellor will do well to come back, won't he, I think?
Yeah, real shame, that one. Obviously, we mentioned who's out on loan at the moment, and obviously Loose Bell, although not out on loan anymore, he has to basically see out the remainder of his loan, doesn't he, essentially, before he can do anything else, which is frustrating, but that's just the way it is. And obviously, Lucas Jensen, you spotted, Dan, was on the bench or playing again for the under-23.
He played. After being on the bench, I reported last week he was on the bench for Burnley under-23s. My man in the bushes in Lancashire reported that he started. But it only seems to be the Premier League Cup games he's playing, which I wonder if it's part of the loan agreement that He
can
can't
play
play
those.
league games, but he can in the Premier League Cup or something.
Yeah, it's a strange one.
But he's clearly not in the picture here.
It's one of
because
those ones.
he's never been mentioned.
I think it's one of those ones almost like that. They're basically we can't get him out on anywhere else. We'll keep the loan open, so if you do get an injury, you can come back and he can play a part. Yeah. But otherwise, he's staying with us.
Craig, surely there must have been a move for him around the Lancashire region in January.
Maybe
because
not.
you can sign a keeper on loan as an emergency at any time, can't you?
True. It's a very weird.
Very strange.
Or maybe he has been recalled and we've just not said anything. It's weird. It's really, really weird.
Keith Millen mentioned a few weeks ago about his keepers, and there was no mention of Jensen. He was on about the two, and it was Howard and Norman, and it was the two.
Yeah.
But he's still listed on the club website.
Yeah.
And if he's gone back, just say it. Nobody's bothered. He's not going to be some sort of lauded master, is he?
No, it's a very odd one.
Typical Carlisle United.
Yeah. In terms of the formation team and all that for this weekend, what would you go with, Dan?
4-3-3.
Yeah, I think we're both in agreement with that one, aren't we?
Yeah, 4-3-3.
Who'd you play?
Who do you play? Yeah, I think I'd probably agree with Whelan to right back. He maybe won't get up as much as Riley would, but he's more solidly defensively. Feeney and Simu picked themselves in the middle. Left back's a question, isn't it? Like we mentioned earlier. Armour and Roberts. I'd give Roberts again.
Yeah,
Armour could maybe do it for a little less. Maybe slightly harsh, but maybe a little kick up the backside. Midfield, I think if Guy's fit, he plays.
Yeah.
I would like to see Devitt play.
I don't think he will, though.
Yeah.
I think he's going to still be on the bench. And who else would you have in there?
You're probably looking at it's Riley or Mellish, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a fight between the two.
Yeah.
Personally, just for the extra quality, I'd probably pick Riley, but
Guy, Riley, and Devitt is probably the best trio in terms of skill and what have you.
It's not the biggest midfield, but I mean, what difference is having a big midfield and winning all these things if you're not actually doing anything with it? There's no point, really.
Then what do you do up front? Do you do Windsor and Patrick around Short Silver?
It's probably going to be, isn't it? I think it's fair to say.
And then you're probably looking at Dennis off the bench.
Yeah, that seems the obvious choice.
If you started Devitt, would it be a bad thing to bring Mellish on for the last 20 to go charging about like a bull?
No, that's the thing. I don't mind doing that, but doing it from the start of the games at the moment, it's just not
And
working.
I also think if you'd brought Dennis on for Shaw Silver, he's the sort of striker who might just pick up off a loose cannon off John Mellish's knee or something. He's got the savvy for the goal mouth.
Definitely.
I think that's what I'd go. Yeah,
I'm pretty much the same as you, mate. I think I'd pretty much agree with that. I don't think Dennis is clearly not quite there yet in terms of his fitness. So he needs to work a little bit on it. I mean, to me, Devitt looks fit against Port Vale. I didn't see any issue with it. So the fact that he only got 3 minutes against Colchester was strange to me.
strange. Yeah, I think that was just a strange match on Saturday, wasn't it?
Yeah. And we can't afford that this weekend. I mean,
no.
we didn't really discuss him too much there, but I mean, obviously we might as well do it now before we get into the predictions. Let's talk about Harry McKirdy. We all know he's a good footballer, don't we? We all know he should be playing at a high level. He should be playing championship level, really, with the ability he's got. But there's an attitude problem there, and I totally get it. He does his own thing and he's his own character and that. But I don't get the need for all the stuff he says about.
Swindon fans have taken to him though, whereas ours didn't.
He's hit and miss apparently. There's some fans are a little bit more. I mean, our fans didn't not take him that much, but it all seemed to stem from there was one game, wasn't it? I think where he had a go at the Warwick for not getting behind the team or something when the team was playing shit. To be brutally honest, they weren't playing well. So that you've got to earn that right as much as anything. You talk about your fans getting behind you, but if you don't turn up and you're not playing, you're going to get stick. Yeah. And it all seemed to come from that, and it all went downhill. He couldn't resist, making comments on social media and stuff. And
he was arguing with them at Crewe, and then was it Walsall where we won?
Yeah,
and he
yes, that was the game I was at.
He didn't even want to celebrate at the end.
And then afterwards, it all kicked off on social media and stuff, didn't it? And
Webster had to basically say, "Come on, Harry," who's Webster's his mate.
Yeah.
More on him soon. But Webster sort of said, "Come on, Harry, you've got to, best dad," and that was one of the best things Webster did at the club, to be honest. But,
yeah, definitely. He's we all know what he's like, don't we? We all know what his attitude's like at times.
It'll go one or two ways tomorrow.
Yeah.
He'll either have the game of his life, score one, make one, and be man of the match. Or, this is part of the reason why I'd maybe play Mellish. Mellish cracks him after 2 minutes, takes the yellow, but shuts him up for the game. The crowd go uproar. Yes! Cheer us on to a 2 or 3-0 lead. McKirdy gets subbed on the hour to chants of, "Harry, what's the score? Harry, what's the score?" And then we collapse and just hold on for the 3-2 win.
I was going to say, you had to put a little bit of realism back into there.
Oh,
didn't
yeah.
You can't have the...
It's Carlisle, it can't be simple.
No, indeed not. But yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I'm sure he'll be mouthing off on social media afterwards. It's interesting that, obviously, the guy from the Loathed Strangers podcast was saying the fact that McKirdy reappeared on Twitter briefly and then made a comment about watching Swindon Town ladies, saying it was like watching paint dry, which obviously was a bit of a PR disaster for the club, I think it's fair to say.
Instagram's his little playground, isn't it? He'll probably be posting from the bus now about a trip.
Yeah. But the guy from the podcast was saying as well, he always bangs on about his precious Chelsea as well all the time. Said, nothing's changed there then, really, has it? That's
nothing new. Yeah.
No.
I think he's happier at Swindon because it's easier to get to Chelsea.
Probably why. Yeah, it's probably fair to say that, isn't it? Yeah, there you go. Right, well, let's do predictions then, Dan. Go on, let's have your prediction. I think we know that we're not going to keep a clean sheet in this one. I think I know you.
3-2 win as previously described a minute ago.
Yeah. So you're not going to go with McKirdy to score for them?
No. Goals from Shaw Silver, Windsor, and Callum Guy's going to get a goal. Come back in the team and score.
Blimey.
A worldie. A 30-yard barn breaker.
What have you been drinking? Callum Guy to score. I tried that one for a while. Didn't work, did it? Yeah. Right, let's have Mike's predictions then.
I'm going to predict only, I think, my second defeat that I've ever predicted, but it's going to be 3-0 Swindon with a McKirdy hat-trick.
Oh, wow, he's gone for it.
Bloody hell, Mike.
Bloody hell. Get back down off that ledge. Blimey.
Yeah. Don't sit on the fence, pal.
No, not at all. I mean, I was thinking of going for a defeat.
Yeah. I can't.
But I'm going to complete the cycle. I'm going to go for a draw. I reckon a 2-2 draw. McKirdy will score one of the goals for them. It's inevitable. But for us, I reckon Shasilva will score one. And Riley's going to get a goal as well. So there you go. Shasilva and Riley with the goals. Right. Do you want to do the answer to Mike's question now before we do the X-Files section?
Yes, I've been having a think. Pericard didn't actually play that many games.
No, he didn't.
A lot less. I'm sure he's only around the 200 mark or something. On that basis, his most famous spell, it's got to be Portsmouth.
I was going to say Portsmouth. It's definitely Portsmouth. Yeah. It's got to be Portsmouth.
And I'm going to say a dozen. A dozen for Portsmouth.
Okay, I'm going to say for Portsmouth he scored... I'm going to say he scored 14 for Portsmouth.
Right.
So if it's on 13, it would be to draw. That's the way I thought it'd be a fair way to do it. Right, well, should we have the answer to Mike's question? Let's do it now.
So the club was Portsmouth, and he scored only 9 goals for them.
Oh, wow.
Just 9 goals.
Wow, that really is. He wasn't a goal scorer in his career, I think it's fair to say. He was a big target man, wasn't he? I mean, we're probably not far off one of the teams he scored the most, because he scored 4 for us, didn't he, I think, or something like that in 9 games. So there you go. Thanks for that one, Mike. That's a really interesting one. Okay, let's move on to the X-Files section, Dan. Not as busy this week, a little bit quieter, wasn't it?
Yeah, not too much. Saturday, Kedwin Scott scored a brace for Gateshead in the 4-0 win over Alfreton.
Signed a new contract with him recently, didn't he, I think? To stay a bit longer.
Yeah. Harry McKirdy scored in Swindon's 3-0 win over Scunthorpe. Gavin Riley becoming a regular suddenly, isn't he? Scored in the 2-1 win over Queens, his former club. Aaron Hayden scored in Wrexham's 3-0 win over Boreham Wood in the trophy. That was it for Saturday. Midweek, we've got Paddy Madden scored a brace for Stockport in a 3-1 win over Bromley. But Bromley's goal in injury time was a 25-yard wonder strike from Byron Webster.
Incredible. If you haven't seen
that is a sentence you would not associate with Byron Webster, but have a look for it. It's a bloody good goal.
Yeah, it's on Twitter. Go on Bromley's Twitter feed. You'll find it there. Brilliant strike. Literally, it's one of those ones I think he's just like, sod it in like the 90th minute because it was a very late goal.
Just have a go.
I'm just going to lash it.
One more from midweek. James Tavernier scored a penalty for Rangers in a superb 4-2 win over Dortmund in Germany.
I didn't watch this, but someone was messaging me about it and updating and saying like it was a mental game. Like they were just battering Dortmund. It was just
yeah.
And the other bits,
a little bit of other bits. Zach Clough has made his debut for Adelaide. Couple of sub appearances, and he looks happier already, doesn't he?
Yeah, it's a little bit telling, isn't it? How happy he looks when he's in the dressing room and stuff like that, and he's putting pictures on his social media. Yeah.
If you're up early on a weekend morning and you've got BT Sport, they show the A-League games, so you've half a chance of catching him in action.
Yeah, it's not a bad standard either. I'd say it's probably maybe sort of League One, lower end Championship standard maybe for the games. They're exciting, aren't they? They're certainly.
Yeah, there's some good games. Like the Sydney Derby and the Melbourne Derby are brilliant games usually.
Good atmospheres as well. The fans really get behind them as well. Yeah.
And Neil McDonald had a one-match caretaker spell, was it? Also,
yeah.
He got manager of the week for it. So
yeah, done well, but he's been replaced already, hasn't he? Mike Flynn's come in. That's a good appointment.
Mike Flynn,
isn't it? Really good.
That's another big appointment at the lower end, isn't it?
Yeah, obviously Bradford have lost their manager this week, haven't they? Derek Adams, he's left after 37 games in charge. I've seen a few people saying
something not right at Bradford, isn't there?
Yeah, something not right
there. They're going through too many good managers.
Yeah, but at the same time, Adams is one of those people. I think he only works in particular situations. Really, I think he's a very combative bloke, isn't he? And he likes to go in and ruffle up feathers. I've heard a few people say, I'd love to have him, get rid of Millen, get him in here. I don't think he'd work with us. Just my opinion. I'm just not I'm not convinced he would work in the setup of Brunton Park at the moment.
Yeah.
But yeah, and obviously another interesting bit of managing news in League Two this week. Mark Cooper has been given a 8-game touchline ban?
8-game and £3,000 for comments made towards an official, but a little bit of detective work. Apparently, it was a female official.
Yeah, if you look at the thing, it said it was a sexism basically. Charge, and if you look it up, obviously, I did a bit of digging and found out that one of the assistants was a female official. So yeah, it's taken a while.
That's a big ban. That's a big ban, isn't it?
It's taken a long time though, because it was August when this happened. And they've only just done it now, and Barrow's reaction to it's not been the best. I think it's fair to say they're sort of just like making no real comment on it and saying they haven't had the reasons. Like, well, they must have had the reasons. Surely they do usually get these things. So
yeah.
Interesting one. But there you go, Dan. I think that's today's episode wrapped up. Hopefully we'll be celebrating
a little bit later this week due to work reasons for the pair of us. But...
Yes, I mean, hopefully we'll be celebrating on Saturday evening, drinking Harry McKirdy's tears as we queue for our tickets for the Barrow game in March. It's a big game, isn't it? I mean, it's fair to say. I mean, if you lose it...
there's a perfect scenario.
What?
A queue of 500 waiting for Barrow tickets as Harry gets on the bus after the defeat. Fantastic.
Wave him away. One wave in particular I think we'll be giving him. But yeah, it's a big game, isn't it? Because, if you lose this game, that would then be, 3 points from a possible 24 for Millen in the last 8 games? Yeah. Not ideal situation, especially. And then next week we'll be playing Leyton Orient, and Leyton Orient are bottom of the form table, and we're second bottom of the form table. So that's a huge.
Leyton Orient, who he was scouting for.
Yeah, they're dropping like a stone at the moment. So It's going to be an interesting couple of weeks, I think it's fair to say. We'll be back next week, obviously, with a preview of the Orient game, and we'll be obviously speaking to the guys from the Lowdown podcast again for about the 8th or 9th time in the last 12 months, I think it will be, something like that. Always good to catch up with them. I won't be going down to Orient. I've had a look at it, Dan, and I was sitting there thinking to myself, why can't I find any cheap train tickets from Liverpool to London on that Saturday to go down to the game? And then realised Liverpool obviously are playing in the League Cup final on the Sunday, so that's obviously there's no cheap tickets. So there you go. So I think I'll be giving that one a miss. I think we'll be following that one from home. I think it's fair to say. But thanks once again to our sponsors, London Branch. Thanks once again everyone for listening, and hope you have a good weekend. Stay safe in the storm and up the Blues.
Up the Blues.